North London was not a safe place to be in the decade that followed. And for a long stretch of time, it seemed like murder after murder was taking place in these areas. In April 2011, 15-year-old Negus McLean, aka Chop, labelled by the BBC as a member of Edmonton N9-based set called Dem Africans Gang, was murdered by a gang hunting posse of 4, armed with knives, stabbing him to death in a grisly incident that was described in court. 4 people were later found guilty of murder in this case, apparently members of Enfield's EN3 Get Money gang. Another murder in the area, which is rapped about by 3x3 members frequently, occurred at 9:45 PM on Monday the 1st of April 2013, when 19-year-old Mohammed Hussein, aka Chicken, was killed by a shotgun blast on Bounces Road in Edmonton following an argument, with the news reporting the scene as something straight out of an old Western movie, with 21-year-old Nathaniel Tesfaye given a life sentence for the murder, which authorities said was gang-related, with the modern-day rappers from 3x3 frequently rapping that he should be free. Jumping forward to 2015, the blocks in the area were incredibly hot, as a lot of violence played out on both sides of the fence. On the 10th of January 2015, a teenager in Wood Green is murdered in his ends following a knife fight. That same month, an 18-year-old from Tottenham who went by the name Prophet, real name Isaiah Ekpaloba, robbed a home of a member of the Wood Green mob named JD before trying to flee in a taxi. He was chased with a knife by JD and eventually murdered, with JD from Wood Green being charged with the murder and getting life in jail. And it's around this moment that the streets begun to interact with the music, as A1 from the 9 dropped his song Op Part 2, where he dissed Prophet, as well as other people associated with OFB. However, Prophet wasn't the only fallen soldier from the area who would end up getting mentioned in music. On June the 15th, 2015, 22-year-old Lukey Maxwell was murdered in a stabbing in Northumberland Park. Lukey was well known to rappers from the area, particularly Tottenham grime legend Skepta, who ended up making the tribute song Lukey World that even the king of rap himself, Drizzy Drake, ended up sharing in the form of a picture of himself wearing a Lukey World t-shirt. Now, someone was charged in that case with murder, but those charges were eventually dropped. Also in June 2015, Renea Campbell, aka Mello from Wood Green, is stabbed to death outside a party, with 2 people eventually being convicted from Northumberland Park in Tottenham. So with this deadly beef going down in the streets, you'd think the safest place to be would be inside. But hell, even in prison, members from these areas are getting touched. In October 2016, Jamal Mahmood, aka Chaos, is murdered in HMP Pentonville Prison, being stabbed in an argument allegedly over a parcel of drugs, before being thrown over the railings of the landing, dropping about 30 feet. The alleged killers beat their case once again, with the media identifying Chaos as a member of the GMG gang from Enfield. So again, whilst not actually part of this beef, Chaos is another name that would go on to be heavily disrespected by 3x3 members in their raps. In fact, it really seemed like the trend of smoking dead ops on social media was also really taking off in North London around this time. Another AP member from Enfield known as Skengs, apparently the brother of Chaos who was murdered in prison, is seen on social media dissing Wood Green and saying he's smoking mellow in 2016.
I can share the thing mellow to the dome.
Then, completely independently of the beef between these two areas, in December 2019, Skengs is murdered by one of the customers he sold drugs to, apparently beating him with a claw hammer and stabbing him to death, then putting the murder weapons and the body in a big sheet that he hid in his attic, with the crime only being discovered a whopping 8 months later, after the killer bragged to his friends about the crime and even showed somebody the rotting body in the attic. Now, eventually 2 people are jailed for this crime. That story's just wild, and you know what? It really reminded me actually of what happened to Corbin Johnson, who went missing for an entire year in the video I did on the deadly gang war in Jacksonville. And just like Corbin, following his passings, Skengs was disrespected on numerous songs by the likes of 3x3, with some even being seen on social media smashing up a mural to Skengs in his area. Now look, not everything I've mentioned up until this point is necessarily connected or related, but what I'm trying to do is just give you a backdrop to the wild shit that was going on in this area during the time that UK drill music as we know it today was finding its voice. This is the environment drill rappers were coming up in, and these are the situations that they would be speaking about in their music. And over time, a lot of young men from these areas would begin to release absolutely fire music, finally getting themselves a chance to make money legally and get into a lucrative career on a path of safety away from the streets. But for some, even with the opportunity of going straight through music on the table, the temptation to slip back into old habits comes strong. And time after time, the unfortunate truth is it seems like people from this area were forced to choose a safe career making music and staying away from the streets, or choose violence. On February the 3rd, 2018 at 1:30 AM, police were called to Kemble Road at the junction of St Mary's Close in Tottenham after reports of a stabbing. It turned out that a young man named Kobe was driving on this street when he was rammed off the road by another vehicle. Apparently Kobe was a former gang member affiliated with the Northumberland Park area in Tottenham with convictions for violence all the way back in 2012. But by 2018, Kobe had seemingly distanced himself from the streets and was employed as a youth worker, helping troubled people in the community break the cycle like he did. Sadly though, that day when he was rammed by rivals from Wood Green, they didn't care one bit that he had turned his life around and moved away from the streets. So after being rammed off the road, numerous people jumped out the car with poles and knives, attacking Kobe, leaving him stabbed, dying at the scene. And his shocking 999 phone call was even eventually broadcast, where he pleaded to paramedics to come to the scene, whilst Kobe seemingly already knew that it was too late.
I've got stabbed.
Where are you, mate?
St. Mary's closed. St. Mary. I'm dead.
DNA evidence was found in the car on both the airbags and seatbelts, linking multiple Wood Green mob affiliates to the crime, with the suggestion that Lamps from Wood Green was one of the people who had jumped out of the car, attacking Kobe, and another man named Neron Quarti, who was labelled by police as the driver. He was picked up by police and gave a full no-comment interview.
Were you one of the guys with a knife in his hand stabbing him? Were you one of the ones holding him while he was stabbed? Did you murder Kobe?
But comment or none, it seemed that the DNA evidence that was left on the airbag was indisputable. And on the 16th of August 2018, Neron Quarti is convicted of the murder of Kobe, being sentenced to 26 years in prison. Meanwhile, Lamps' involvement in this murder wouldn't be identified by the police until some time later, and unfortunately, by the time they worked out that Lamps was involved in the murder of Kobe, it was too late. And even with Kobe's murder successfully carried out, apparently the Wood Green mob was still thirsty for blood. In fact, apparently members in the area had even planned an attack on Kobe's funeral, with police getting intelligence and intercepting the crew in an insane police chase that was even caught on camera, with the cops ultimately foiling the planned ride out on the funeral.
First contact.
Hello, yes, I think there's been a shooting at Wood Green.
Sorry, there's been what, sorry?
I heard some gunshot fired, somebody on a motorbike.
Just over a month after the murder of Kobe, late at night on the 7th of March 2018, Lamps posted his location on Snapchat, seemingly gesturing for his ops to come and pull up on him. And he had shown quite clearly for the whole of North London to see that he was chilling outside the McDonald's at the Hollywood Bowl Entertainment Complex in Wood Green. Now, we already know that Lamps was known to have numerous enemies from all over London and a feared reputation in the area. And for those that wanted to cause him harm, this would be the perfect opportunity. And after getting the drop on Lamps, two unidentified individuals pulled up to the area on a moped, arriving at the Hollywood Bowl in Wood Green and spinning the block twice. On this ride, they seemingly caught Lamps sat with a group of people in the stairwell of the View Cinema in this complex. And for a moment, it even looked like Lamps was running towards the door ready for action, perhaps not realizing just how dangerous those people on that moped were. Because when Lamps approached the glass door leading out of the cinema, he was immediately shot in the head through the window. This shot was fatal, and Lamps was left dead at the scene. And Lamps' final moments were captured on CCTV, as well as amateur footage of emergency services trying to revive him at the scene, which once again is far too shocking to show you on YouTube. Anywho, after the shooting, the cinema was taped off and the area was considered the scene of a homicide. But the cops wouldn't have much to go on, because after the drill was done, the shooters immediately fled the scene on that moped without leaving a trace, leaving police truly baffled as to who committed what looked like the perfect crime. A drive-by shooting from a moving moped, with both the shooter and the driver wearing crash helmets, getting a headshot, and then immediately fleeing the scene, leaving no evidence. The killing of Lamps was such a mystery to the Met Police and the public, the case even ended up appearing on the TV crime documentary The Met Policing London, along with the Kobe incident.
The following day, the investigation into the shooting of Kelvin Odunyi is picked up by the same team investigating the murder of Kobe Nelson.
There is limited opportunities in relation to the identification of the suspects at this time.
So, who killed Lamps? Well, despite there being a whole bunch of crackpot theories floating around on Reddit and YouTube, a lot of different people all over London likely wanted Lamps dead. Because as we know, Wood Green and Lamps himself had many beefs all over London far beyond Tottenham.
Fuck Hoxton as well, yeah? A beef Hackney.
To this day, the crime remains unsolved, and even though Reddit detectives have several theories on who might have been responsible, there really isn't anything truly conclusive. And if there was, trust me, the cops would be on it before Reddit or me. But regardless of whether or not they even had anything to do with this crime, simply because of the ongoing feud between the two areas, following the killing of Lamps, Tottenham rappers would put the utmost disrespect on his name. KK from MPK posted a picture of the unfixed door from the crime scene, talking about the killing of Lamps on Phonum like it was goddamn Chirac.
Yeah, man, them niggas still ain't fixed that shit, boy. And they still trying to re-up on the customers on phone and grave.
RV from OFB drove past with the caption, "Ha ha." Abracadabra was later seen posting a snap at what appeared to be Lamps' grave site. And beyond the ops, even young drill fans on the internet were showing disrespect, with some going as far as to recreate the Lamps murder on GTA 5, reusing the original 999 audio recordings from the scene of the crime.
Hello, Met Police. Someone has been shot dead at Hollywood Green Cinema in Wood Green.
But eventually, the biggest disrespect on Lamps' name would come when younger NPK members would release an entire song dedicated to dissing Lamps. Over a year after his death, on May the 26th, 2019, NPK rappers Sin Squad dropped the song Kelvin's Coffin. The hook of the song is then basically saying that their shotgun is the same length as Kelvin or Lamps' coffin, as well as rapping that they're smoking on Mellow and Chop, fallen Wood Green members mentioned at the start of this story. In fact, Kelvin's Coffin was an unusually disrespectful song for the UK drill scene. Hell, it even made the news for being so demonic. But anyway, setting aside the music for a minute, in the streets, after Lamps was murdered, retaliations would apparently come immediately. The day after the murder, there was a massive fight outside of a school nearby where a boy was stabbed, which police said may have been related. Then, at the end of March 2018, another attack took place at Farringdon's Tinseltown Diner, where both a man and woman were filmed as being attacked on the floor in a confrontation apparently between NPK and Wood Green members. And soon after this physical altercation, on the 2nd of April 2018, just after 9:30 PM, a silver Vauxhall Mariva pulls up at Chalgrove Road, just round the corner from Northumberland Park Station, where shots are fired from a .32 caliber handgun in a drive-by shooting, apparently targeting an NPK member, but unfortunately the bullets didn't hit their intended target, instead hitting a teenage girl in the chest, leaving her dead at the scene. The victim was 17-year-old Tanisha Melbourne, a young girl from the Tottenham area who had been seen in the past on social media with rappers from OFB and NPK. No one was ever charged for this murder, despite the burned out car used for the drill being found in nearby Barnet only a few days later. And following the incident, people were talking about it on social media, even hashtagging NPK, with the media suggesting that all these events were linked together as part of the ongoing war between these two gangs. And so, with seemingly innocent 17-year-olds ending up dead in drive-by shootings, at this point the violence is so bad that local community activists are demonstrating and calling for change.
Where young people feel scared to go to Wood Green and Wood Green young people feel scared to come to Tottenham, that should not happen in London.